Good night to all and the YouTube view. We will have some viewers on YouTube as well. Know that Facebook is more popular and not much persons have subscribed to the YouTube channel yet. I think up to this evening there were approximately 20 subscriptions, right? So welcome to PRO-C-VANE media coverage tonight, where we have some fantastic guests at the inside, and we are going to bring to you a discussion on equal education for all students. Right? We have a focus on education in Trinidad and Tobago because this is where we belong. We are concerned about our brothers and sisters with their children who need to access equal opportunities throughout the rest of the world, because what we are facing here in Trinidad isn't totally unique, and I am carefully saying it isn't totally unique based on the approach that is being taken to deal with situations and some of that are being achieved in some here. However, basically it's the same challenge, and every country is working on their own ways to sort their situations out. So we have in studio tonight, thus far we have 3 guests. We are expecting 2 more to join us, and I will have them introduce themselves and take at least 2 minutes each to say something short to you, and after, each of them will present to you, right? So you all know how this live stream goes. It's like a discussion. It's not anything to be feeling, like it's a big group of people. To you, we are speaking to you normal minds, and we are giving you the opportunity to participate through the comment section, right? So don't think that we are here to talk down at you. We are here to speak with you, to have a nice discussion, and each person will share from their own perspective as to their view with regards to equal opportunities for children and Tobago, where education is concerned. So I think I will start with an activist, right? And I wouldn't just say an activist. I describe this person as a multi-activist, because I think that's the best way, so that he wouldn't say I left out anything. I don't want him to say that I am being right. So I'm putting on the spot now, Mr. Bring greetings to you for 2 minutes, and then he will come back to you again very soon.
Good evening to all. Good evening, Daniel and Danny, all the other presenters and the people can all from Trinidad, Tobago, wherever. I am Peterson Philip. A lot of people know me as Kambui, and by the way, that means fearless. And I don't know, I always try to live up to that name, so you will hear I speak fearlessly most of the time. Well, all of the time I attempt to speak fearlessly and frankly. And jumping straight on to the topic here
We're
tonight.
not seeing it totally clear, Mr. Philip.
All right, better now, right?
Much better.
Right. I am really concerned. And the situation has really vexed me. I'm really concerned. I really as someone who has been involved in the welfare of children through PTA and other organizations, and not only that, as a father, grandfather, I can see our country descending to the point where our children, our students are actually separated. And maybe Lord, we might deal with the reason why I think there's no reason for it. There's no logical reason for it. I figure there is a reason, but not logical reason. So I would want to congratulate Daniel George Sr. and the PRO-C-VANE media for bringing this to the fore. And I feel honored to be invited to contribute to this forum tonight.
Thank you very much, Mr. Philip. For the viewers, please excuse me when my internet is going in between. So let me make my announcement as I usually make it. I'm picking up the neighbor Wi-Fi, right? So that does cause some fluctuation. And the next person I will ask to give a greeting. So hear from him again. It's yes, we need to hear from the politicians. I am so glad that this politician answered to this call, right? And I want him to give a 2 minutes greeting. Mr. Anthony Williams, please give us 2 minutes, and then we will be hearing from you again.
Well, my name is Anthony Williams. I'm from Point Fortin, born and bred in Captiville. You know, everybody know me by the nickname that I won't say on this discussion. But I am the political leader of the Trinidad and Tobago Democratic Front, the first political party out of Point Fortin, right? The first one. And I am at the belief that education and healthcare twined in one is the key to, how to say it, a better productive nation, right? Healthy people, educated people, but the opportunities towards advancements is also key. And that ain't happening. That hasn't happened since the day of independence or becoming a republic under Dr. Eric Williams, you know. It has always been a certain type of education, so we could put out, you know, KFC workers, Subway workers, CPEP workers, people to clean the drain, and so on, you know, for the 1%ers and so on. You know, it's like a educational system towards an enslavement. And I believe that could change. And I am hoping through the next advancements when it comes to the way people vote in upcoming elections, whether it be local or general, that the mindset change and people decides that, hey, I want better around the board, right? I became this, how to say it, eventful person towards the breakdown of the system that been keeping us back for so long, right? So I came into the ideal situation one time when I had a discussion with a certain politician, and I realized the old ones, the rooted old ones in the PNM and UNC do not want to change it. And I decided, hey, why not start a party? Why not get involved? Right? Why not try to advance Trinidad and Tobago, especially the district that you came from, Point Fortin and environments? Why not try to make it better for the younger ones? And this is where my, how to say it, standing in the political arena came in. That is the most I could say right now. And I would like to also say, my bad, good night to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. great is the people of Trinidad and Tobago, not no political party, not no political leader, and all they deserve better, especially when it comes to advanced education and education for all, right? Not this type of education that we are seeing. First, it was, how to say it, a kind of class education system, and now we seeing it turning into a type of vaccination class education system, and these things are hardcore coming from political parties or party that's supposed to have a more democratic feel coming from it, where choice is everything, and we need to make some changes on a whole.
Okay, so thanks much, Mr. Williams, and we will hear from him again shortly, right? So the third person we have joining us in studio tonight, I am pleased to say the person have the same name like me, Daniel George, except that that is Daniel George Sr., and I am the son, Daniel George Jr. So let me don't waste any more time and bring on evangelist Daniel George.
Okay, thank you very much. Are you hearing me loud and clear? Are you hearing me?
Very loud and very clear. I see
Okay, well, first of all, I want to... Okay, right, thanks. I want to say good night to everyone, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to be on this platform where I can make, well, hopefully a valuable contribution in terms of standing up for the rights of our children who have been given the alienated right to an education. You know, while I was listening to two other presenters, my mind went right back to in the 60s when our first Prime Minister, the late Dr. Eric Williams, said that the future of the children lies in their school bag. And I totally agree with that, because having lived through from, well, mid-50s to current to present, I've seen that unless you are well educated, or at least given an opportunity to be educated, and you embrace the opportunity to be educated, is what makes the difference in terms of your failure or success in life, and the opportunity to be able to, you know, take care of yourself and to take care of your family. And I can speak from experience where at first I didn't make the best opportunity of my primary and secondary school education, and that put me at such a huge disadvantage, especially where job opportunities was concerned. But thankfully, I was self-motivated and was able to study on my own, and was able to obtain, you know, an education that gave me a chance. And that's what education does to you. You know, it gives you a chance for the future. And in 2021, to see we have come to that place now where that right of the child to be educated is being deprived on the pretext of vaccination. To me, that is a travesty of democracy and a travesty of freedom. And I'm hoping tonight that good sense will eventually prevail, and whatever restrictions under whatever pretext they come will be completely removed, so that all of our children will have the same opportunity to be educated. That's it for now.
Okay, thanks very much. And what we will do now, viewers, we are going to hear from each of the presenters, right? Probably, well, you know how it is. We usually go for 1 hour, and that is 8 to 9, right? And while I longer because of knowing what these, I know they may want to go and sleep, because I am very, very sure from communicating with them, they have been well active today in their different ways, right? So we will hear from them probably 7 minutes each, and then after each of them presents, a discussion will begin, right? So they will all unmute their mics on their own. It wouldn't be like I am throwing out questions to them. A discussion amongst the three of them are very well. These are fellows who are disciplined, so I know that a very disciplined discussion will take place, and they will be very brief every time that they make a point, so that the discussion could go on and each person will get a chance to speak in between. But before we go into that discussion, we would like to hear from each of them what their views are, a little more than what they gave us in the introduction, right? And I think, you know what? I've been hearing from activists, honestly, and I've been hearing from religious leaders, not only in the Christian faith, but in the Muslim and other faiths. We really, right? And all I hear the fellows here and myself could talk from now till forever. But tonight, we're going to keep it a little short, and we will definitely be back again in the interest of time. But let me hear from the politician first tonight. So, Mr. Williams, please take the stage.
Well, Trinidad and Tobago, I have been watching education for years in Trinidad and Tobago as a, how to say it, as a citizen, as a rooted person who have grown to love a country that seems to don't love young people, especially when it comes to advanced trade. The way we take the schooling in, we talking about the subjects and the, how to say it, the exams and so on. A lot of, how to say it, reintroduction of these systems needs to take place, because I only seen it failing. It has failed for many years. It have also even failed me, because I left school without one subject, not one subject, right? And my key to success was football, right? But the system was so bent and terrible when it comes to getting to the right school and being dumped into the wrong school. And I was dumped into school. From junior 2.410, ended up in Old Tech in San Fernando, the dumping ground, right? San Fernando Senior Comprehensive. And let me tell you something, it was hell. Because we heard in the past ministers and educators talk about there is no bullying in schools, there is no gang warfare in schools, there is no guns in the schools, no knives in the schools, no this, no that. But San Fernando Senior Comprehensive was the yard for that. So getting a strong education there was very, very hard when you had the gangs waiting for you outside the gate, right? It was very, very difficult. So I left school with nothing. But when I went outside, I aspired to push myself to achieve getting some passes, which I did, 14 passes through the education system in the UK, right? Now, all well and done said, but the thing is, Trinidad and Tobago, coming back here and trying to use those 14 passes, all well and done, but coming back here and trying to use those 14 passes, it was hell. The closest I come to a job with 14 passes is as an office clerk, right? Because a lot of companies was telling me that are too advanced and they wouldn't be able to pay me. A number of other companies was telling me, come with a few of the documents, not all. And that is passes I got from on the international arena. So imagine Trinbagonians here who have 9 and 10 subjects, the A's, the ones, and so on, and the levels, right? and they cannot get not one job besides a job in Subway, as I said before, a job in KFC, working CPEP, borough work in Point 14 or other boroughs, corporation work, and so on, right? We in Trinidad and Tobago have sat too long, and we have let this overflow because nobody really came out within, rather it be UNC or PMM, and push for real adoptions towards advancements in the education system. They just left it to flatline, and every election they come in and out, it stayed flatlining. Nothing was adopted to advance these educational platforms. Nothing at all. Rather, it come to advance training in rather it be welding, underwater diving, maritime welding, fabricating, when we're talking about trade and many other aspects of trade, rather it be technology, nothing happened to advance that. When we talk about, let me say, other platforms towards advancing yourselves, nothing never happened towards that. The little training centers we had in Point 14, they closed it down, right? They closed it down. Well, GVC in Point 14, I think they have a new name and running on that different platform, right? Everything they closed down. They never advanced anything, never went out there and say, okay, let me get people who could push new technologies through the youths in Trinidad and Tobago and give them that opportunity, rather it be in data, apps, or other fabrics of technology, nothing at all. We keep putting out students day in, day out to go and work in KFC, to go and work in Subway, and to go and work. Some people hate to hear it, but I have to say it. We only putting out students who are leaving school to go and work for the 1%, the Syrians and them, and that is about it. We're not putting out movers and shakers. We're not putting out people to advance the industries that we have in Trinidad and Tobago, right? Rather it be a product in how to say it, in drilling, in finding the oil and gas, you know, none of the sort. None, rather it be developing the pitch lake in Labrie. None of the sort. Everything, when it comes to dealing with industries, we import it. We import it into the country when we should be exporting it and building off of it, right? That is not happening at all, at all. The schools right now are deplorable, especially the one in Point 14 where we used to call PFC school, right? That school have a lot of problems. The junior sex school in Point 14, well, they're calling it a different name now, a lot of problems, and nothing has changed for us in Point 14. And as far as I see, across the country, a lot of schools have been left in the same situation. And I know a lot of people will hate to hear it, but everything towards our children education right now and dealing with the issues, COVID playing a big part as a blocking role. The government using COVID as a blocking role to say this cannot be done, this cannot be happen, this cannot work for our children, for our children in Trinidad and Tobago in the educational system. So I am seeing the system at the moment right now being kept under that flatline platform foundation and nothing advancing unless we, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, wake up and understands that we need to protect our children's futures, which means also their education. That will be the built up of their real futures coming down to the next generation after the next generation after the next generation. So what we had to ask ourselves here, are we going to get real and revamp the education system, get rid of the old system, build an advanced system, and put out educated youths, right? With the know-how, with the advancements, the mindset and the patriotic mindset also to keep building Trinidad and Tobago and build a stronger economy? Or are we as a people going to sit back and lie down and keep just putting out workers? I repeat, keep educating and putting out workers at a certain level, with a low kind of standard slavery level, to just be the employees of these rich people in Trinidad and Tobago? Are we going to put some type of advancements and mechanism throughout the educational system, so we could have young entrepreneurs, could have people getting into the small, micro, and medium businesses and sectors and growing it, and something happening around the country when it comes to creating jobs and so on, or are we just going to be laid back and depend on a government system that is not working for us and is only working for a few people? Because I know some people might be upset with me here, but I want Trinidad and Tobago to remember when Rowley stood on the Morning Brew with Natalie Elagor, and he said his business, right? I guess his educational path is to enriching the rich. So by enriching the rich, it will give opportunities to the poor. This country have enough resources, folks, to how to say it, to make a lot of poor people rich. But for those poor people to get rich, we must have advancement in the educational system where they could have those tools to say, here, what's going on? I want to start a company. I know how to start this company. I know what to do. I'm going forward. Instead of going to first party, second party, middleman, third party, and then government bodies, red tape after red tape, when these individuals could just come out with it and start something. We at the Trinidad and Tobago Democratic Front realize that education is the key to a number of successes around the world, right? We're talking about the international arena, where this fella, Elon Musk, right? That is the guy who shooting rockets to the moon, right? Yes, he didn't get an education. I believe he dropped out of school, but then he got back into it, online schooling and so on, and he pushed himself, right? Because America have opportunities. And right now he's a billionaire. He's one of the billionaires that said, hey, I am not getting vaccinated, my children not getting vaccinated, and that is how it is going to be, because he don't believe in the vaccines. And the American government, as big and bad as it is, cannot touch Elon Musk, right? It has other billionaires who took a different route when it comes to educating themselves, and they made it, right? Because sometime in this world and in your country, you have to sway yourself off of your government, off of your government systems, even off of the educational system to better yourself. Because let me tell you something. A lot of people that say PNM government is gold.
Mr. Williams, before
what's that?
Before you continue, what I will do, I will allow the other panelists to share as well, and then in the discussion, you all can, go a little further into your thoughts, right? Because, as you know, don't want to keep you and the other panelists here until...
Understandable. So I'll cut it short here.
Like
what
to do,
saying,
right? But I see you all yawning in between.
Yeah, so I will cut it here. So what I'm saying, the full outcome of what I am saying, we the people of Trinidad and Tobago needs to wake up, especially when it comes to education. So I will just stop it right there. Thank you.
Okay, thanks much, Mr. Williams. And this is what I like about these persons on this stream here tonight. We have persons who have a lot that they can bring to the table, that they would have permitted me to go a little longer tonight, right? But I understand that they are contributing to society in so many other ways that they are very busy every day, right? So I will have Mr. Philip join us again here now, and then Mr. George, and then they will jump into a discussion where I think I will more be listening them because I know what to expect from this discussion with the type of gentlemen we have here tonight. Mr. Philip, please take the stage.
Thank you, Mr. George. Somehow, I can't come back again without saying hello to my good friend, Daniel George Sr., friend of many, many years, friends and colleague. Right? And here we are tonight, once again. Hello, comrade. The politician was good. Of course, he's a politician. But what I didn't do was take a pen and paper to take notes. But he said so much of things that that was so deep. He talked politics, but it was so deep concerning the children of this country. For instance, when he started off the first time, and he said that education and health is entwined. That is a fact, especially with the situation now. What about the children's mental health having to be separated, segregated? Living in this apartheid system in school. That is hard to swallow, man. So when he mentioned health and education, I really thinking specifically about the mental health of these children and the mental attitude of these children, the we and them kind of thing, you know. That separation and apartheid have split so many countries in the world through histories. That is why we have class societies and the system that we live in. From time immemorial, especially at the dawn of the capitalist system, the idea has always been to divide and rule. Divide and rule has caused so many genocides between nations, different parts of the world and all kind of thing. And what we're going to do now, creating a jabbed class and an unjabbed class. At some stage, the unjabbed might start scorning the jab, and the jab might start scorning the unjabbed. The parents might jump in. Or what we looking? I wonder if that is the aim of this whole program, to keep the people divided anyhow possible. It started a long time ago, the Industrial Revolution, you know, when people wanted people to work in the industries and all kind of thing. What did they do? They chased the farmers out of the land, so they won't find no work except to help with the Industrial Revolution. And the Mr. touched on something like that, and this is why it come to mind. Most of the things I say now is what I got from the politician. You know? I ain't telling him I go join any party, you know, but I got that from him. But that is, we have a history of that. Right in Trinidad and Tobago, they're chasing people out of the lands that they want to control. I mean, I just go into a little history here just to be different a little bit, you know. Look at Movie Tongue. I know when Clive Nunez and I can't remember his group, what it was, boy, something promotion. I can remember when they fought tooth and nail, actually begging the administration to get them lands. They say, them lands is sort of environmental space and all kind of thing. Then they gave it to the people that Tony Williams talking about. They just give it to them. So now you have Movie Tongue and you have them same people now telling you, hello, if you have you can't come here. And I suspect, it's just a suspicion. I didn't know, no survey on that. But I suspect that a lot of the people who would have the vax cards, they will be the people going into those places. Here was here. I didn't say vaccinated or jabbed. I said who has the vaccination cards. Because the whole thing is a division. All of us know that once you have the money, you will get anything you want in Trinidad. And I suspect that a lot of people are holding vaccination cards and they have not been vaccinated. Not that I want them to be vaccinated, but the whole system is feeding that kind of corruption and that class society that we live in. We have, so just imagine, you have children going to school, and only I touched it on Mr. Williams' talk again. And I didn't take notes, but I can remember it because it was so salient, good points, you know. And I notice all they're really talking about teachers going back to school. When they start talking about primary school now and secondary school, I didn't hear much talk about tutors and lecturers going to school in the technical system. He mentioned about welders and undersea welding and fabricating and all these things, machines. I didn't hear them talking about going back to school in that area. Why? Why? Because they just want to keep us divided. And on what basis? I have been reading and listening, and I've drawn the conclusion that the only reason they separate the children is because they want to divide the country in two. They want to divide the country, not on lines of race, you know, on lines of class. And this country has always been divided on lines of class. I always remind people when one side have a wedding, the other side is invited, and when you look at the mixture, is both of them red and yellow. Of course, they won't be in red and yellow that night, right? And then we outside here, quarreling and all kind of thing. We in a race that doesn't belong to us. This is a class system, and class covers all the parties, all the races. And I hear Williams again, Mr. Williams again talk about what Natalie Lee Gore show where Dr. Rowley appeared. But they are consistent. It's not Dr. Rowley alone, they are consistent. Just today I heard a news clip from the finance minister input where he had a political meeting, where it was last night or night before. I think it was last night because the clip was this morning, where he was telling his followers to loud sharing that, you know, people criticizing us for giving a certain businessman benefits and all that. But we have to fix them so that you will get jobs. That's how the society is organized. It's not for the majority to get meaningful opportunities to take part in this economy. It's about we always being subservient and serving the people up there. And in Trinidad, it happened to be that 1%. Now that 1% doesn't represent a certain race alone, you know. But I feel about 90 of that 1% is one race. It has some Indians jumping that, some Africans jumping that, and the Indian and African who jump in that just feel that they're more that they're more high class than the traditional people who really enslaved us from day one. You know, they're not really conscious, right? And it's just and what's going on now? We talk about divide and rule. It's an extension of the slave system. Again, I'm touching on a lot of things that the politician tonight mentioned. That slave system have never really left us as a means that the politicians use to control us, divide us, fight one another, kill one another. You know, I remember at one time in Jamaica, people, certain parties were actually importing guns to put one side against the other. But of course, America was supporting it, you know. So, last thing I wanted to say about this, the education thing, is that, look, I mentioned the first time I came on tonight, there is, in my view, that there is no valid explanation except willful separation of people, for separating one set of students from another set of students. There is no valid. Almost everybody, they can't show no figures that we could disprove that children, high percentage of children, over 99% of children, they have a natural immunity to this COVID, a natural immunity. And the death rate starting to climb now. And I say it's because of the vaccine, or the jab, whatever you want to call it. It's because of that. I say that. I'm bold to say that, because the science, they always saying for this, the science showing it that clear as ever. So I don't know when they'll be honest with us. When would they be honest with us with this whole thing? No, it falls now at the feet of people like us. People like us too. What we could do, we have to move against that kind of attack, right? And looking at the two major parties, I didn't hear, maybe I didn't hear everything so far, but I didn't hear the other side in the parliament speaking enough about the children and about their need of vaccine. No, I have heard a lot, because I go into the reason for the so-called reason for segregating it. Why it is the language, why it is the what do you call it? Why is the language only about vaccine and jabs and not about cures and treatments? There are so many cures and treatments that are being successfully done outside there, right in Trinidad, you know. I mean, one of the most popular one, sure, the word is ivermectin. I mean, I reading and hearing, and when them people come and think, oh, ivermectin is for animals, and people in Trinidad shouting that on the streets. And that was a lie told to them, because ivermectin was used on humans, not for COVID, but used on humans. Years ago, and was approved by WHO, and one of the drugs approved for use on humans before animals. They're not telling people that. You know, they're fooling people, and I see the health minister giggling and laughing. They're for animals. Oh Lord, why we have to go through this thing? This kind of insult, boy, from the people who supposed to be leading us, and they're just insulting us and laughing at us, ignoring the science, and say, look, I follow in WHO. WHO is one of the most criminal organizations the world has ever seen. You know that. They should know that. They should know that. But we follow in WHO. And where is WHO leading us? Going back to the ivermectin thing, I personally have been put on a certain chat that, look, I believe that I have evidence that a lot of people in Trinidad at certain levels, certain classes, using ivermectin. So they will contract
Mr.
COVID,
Philip?
and they go into the doctor's office or staying home and taking the treatment. But the country deliberately say, look, we're not approving that drug because America says so. But so many other countries are approving it and I have approved it and got results. So I tested the system yesterday.
I just want to interrupt you a little bit.
Three pharmacies. 2 of them did not have it.
Mr. Philip, just interrupting you a little bit here. Want to give the other panelists a few of the 3 of you is that we extend after the other panelists speak and share. I want to request that we extend the time so that we could have the exchange of conversation amongst 3 of you, which is, I think, one of the most important parts. And all the other points that you all would have want to raise, you all can have that in the exchange, right? So if it's one thing I do like to do is cut important points. That is what one of the reasons I do like to be a moderator. I doesn't even, sometimes I feel like this person should just go on when they're making sense, and we don't really have much people making sense these days. So only in the interest of time, I am asking that we hear from Evangelist Daniel George, and then we come back on having the 3 of them in a discussion where of course they will be mindful that other persons will be waiting to speak, so they will be short as they exchange their views. And questions that I am seeing on the YouTube, that is the YouTube chat in the comment section, and I have to that hopefully you all will be able to respond to some of those questions, right? So let me allow Evangelist Daniel George to here before we go into the discussion itself.
Okay, thank you very much. While the other 2 speakers were speaking, my mind ran back to many, many years ago when one leading politician said, education for all. And the philosophy behind that was that no child should be deprived of the opportunity to be educated. And as I look at the situation that prevails today, I see an attempt, whether it's deliberate or whatever, however I want to describe this attempt, but I see it as an attempt to roll back on that premise of education for all. When that philosophy came to the fore, we see that there was a very concerted effort to create opportunities for education at all levels. So you have those who are academically inclined, meaning they have the ability to study maths, English, the science subjects, the business subjects, you name it, the social subjects and so on. They were given the opportunity. Then you have the people who are not so academically inclined, or for that matter, prefer to do craft courses. They, went in that direction, and so on and so on and so on, and out of those concepts came opportunities for people to do cosmetology. You have opportunities for people who want to be barbers, people who want to be dressmakers, and so on. So one would have think that this philosophy of education, and I should say with equal opportunities for all, would have prevailed up to this point in time, and that no effort would have been made to stymie anybody's chance of being able to embrace whatever opportunities that would have given them as far as being able to educate themselves. But it seems now that this has been rolled back on the basis of, if you are vaccinated, you have an opportunity And with that opportunity come privileges. And if you're not vaccinated, well, dog eat your supper, so to speak, you know. And I am very concerned about that, very, very concerned about that, you know. Um, this rollback now means, therefore, that is only a selective group of people, and they fall under the ambit of vaccinated, who will now have the opportunity for self-empowerment. Because what a lot of people do not know is that education is not just achieving, you know, your academic goals, so to speak. So you start initially with passing C and passing for your first choice, and then you come and you do your secondary school education, and you get your 7 subjects. Then you go on to do A levels, and if you choose to go beyond that, you go to a university, and so on. But at the end of the day, it have a common thread, you know, in terms of whatever your option is, in terms of which direction you want to go academically, and we call that self-empowerment. You'll notice that the people, well, yeah, most of the people in our country, who are not, well, privileged to hold on what you call a very good job, a job that, and when I say good job, one that is high paying, one that has an element of prestige in it, one that gives you, put you in such a position where you can adequately provide for yourself and your family. It all happen except that you, um, well, you grew up in a family that was well off and had big businesses and so on, and you didn't have to study to be a part of the business and to enjoy the privileges, you know, the opportunities that go with that. But apart from that, you know, it really comes down to one thing: you being educated. I remember many years ago, you know, trying to get into Trintok, and every time I applied, the response was you must have 5 subjects, including maths and English. And if I didn't take that serious, I would not have had the opportunity to work with Trintok and subsequently Petrotrin, and reach where I reached eventually. And again, it underscored the point I'm making of education is equated with self-empowerment. You know, it gives you the ability to attain certain goals and embrace certain opportunities that goes with a good education, you know. And so this whole concept now, this new concept, this diabolical concept, you know, is very dangerous. It's a very dangerous, and it's setting us down a path that could really eventually end up in civil war, you know, where you must be vaccinated to be educated. I see that as being brutal, and not just being brutal, but I see it as being abusive as well. And I'll tell you why. Now, there are some things that define abuse, right? And one of them is neglect. Now, because of the fact that the powers that be, you know, are depriving us, depriving those children or our children who are not vaccinated the opportunity to be educated. It borders on the negligence on the part of the state, and with that negligence now, which is a characteristic of abuse, also comes disenfranchisement. So, you know, you're already being neglected because you are deprived of the opportunity to be educated. But the result of that now is to put you in a position where you have become disenfranchised, you have become marginalized, as it were, and disconnected, as it were, from mainstream society, you know. So what you have now is a situation where one group of people are forging ahead, and the other group of people, they're not even straddling behind, they're completely left out, you know. And I see that as a form of state-sponsored abuse to our children. So it means, therefore, right, if I have children who are 3 to 5 years old, right, and my expectation of them, especially being anti-vaccine, would be very low, you know. And barring a miracle, I can see, you know, bringing up a certain trend really do it, who will lack opportunities down the road. And that, again, as I said, you know, is state-sponsored abuse, you know. I cannot, for the life of the birth of my life, you know, fathom the rationale behind this whole concept of children must be vaccinated in order to be educated. And when I look at this whole situation with the COVID-19 pandemic and what transpired pre-vaccination, that is the period that existed before the introduction of vaccine. To me, we were doing much better. Our children were going to school and embracing the opportunities to be educated and achieving their goals and objectives. Notwithstanding that there were some protocols in place, like for example, wearing masks, washing of hands, and social distancing. And but when you look at the condition that existed there, the only risk factor I saw more or less, right, and it wasn't so it was based on the fact of your negligence in terms of observing the protocols. We were not terrified by the pandemic. Like for example, I have taken note that prior to, I think it's March this year or April this year, while the numbers were climbing, I realized that most of the people who became infected, all they were required to do was just stay home for 14 days and come back out. Not only that, the people who are called the frontline workers and the essential workers, and that's another way of disenfranchising people and causing segregation among people and splitting the community, because you have so all of a sudden some people are more essential, and while there is a context in which they would have been attempting to define people as essential and frontline thing, right? And we understand that. But when you look at the long-term effect of that, or the ultimate effect of that, again was to segregate people, And but the point is this, that if you had 15,000 people who became infected, the hospitalization of these percentage of people hospitalized as a result of this would have been minuscule, in that you might have about no more than 500 people, not even 500, about 3 something being hospitalized. You might have had, well, very rare might have had any fatalities. But what I'm saying is that the problem was taken care of by self-isolation, right? And so to make us feel now that this vaccine has all of a sudden now, gone to a new dimension, to the point where now we have to divide the nation between those who are vaccinated and those who are not unvaccinated, to me is totally absurd. And when I look at the ramification of that down the road, we are bordering on the point now where we could have civil unrest. As a matter of fact, some of the impact I see that this will have on us, right, is psychological. Because when my child, and I'm saying this hypothetically, that is now in secondary school, having to live with the reality that, well, the parents, his father and mother wouldn't give consent for them to be vaccinated, or the child of his own might say, I don't want to be vaccinated, but at the same time too, they'll be looking at a a dim future, because they're not given the same opportunity and the same chance to empower themselves by way of education. So that then will have a psychological impact on them, because they will think of themselves being, less than others, and they will think of them being dunce head, so to speak, and not be able to achieve their goals, their lifelong dream of becoming a doctor, engineer, a pilot, or what have you, Not only that, we look at the social impact as well, because once you have a society in which some people are given special privileges, not because they are better than the other persons who lack the privileges, but because they are vaccinated, that in itself could create serious problem, because when the vaccinated people have all the privilege, they could go to the bar and take a drink, they could go to the restaurant and fraternize, they could go to the cinema, they could travel and all of that, and you cannot travel. That will create some serious resentment and resentment. And once that happened, there would be a kind of antagonistic attitude towards those who are vaccinated, and conversely, those who are not vaccinated will be treated in the same way. And when that comes to a boil, what do you think you're going to have? You're going to have social unrest as well, you know. And then from an economic point of view, you know, you'll have a situation where you have a few people who we describe as the haves, and the majority of people as the have not. And you know, in Trinidad and Tobago, the percentage we say, well, is 99 to 1. That could even get worse, you know, because of the amount of young people who will be reaching adulthood and just don't have the opportunity, because even though they are allowed to work unvaccinated, the fact of the matter is that because of the competitive nature of being able to obtain a job, they will not have the necessary qualification, academic qualification. That's what that national qualification require, or the skill set, because they were deprived an opportunity to be educated. And so what all of this will do eventually is create a new class of people, not only, well, invariably it would be on the basis of economics and all of that, you know, but more than anything else, it would be a new class of people that was established and is being driven by vaccination. That is a cruelty to society. And the irony of all of that is that our politicians keep making promises, you know, to better life for the people. They keep saying that they care about the nation, and especially the youth. You'll hear a lot of narrative about, you know, the youth program, and so on. But I mean, when you say that on the one hand and you're doing everything to undermine, you know, the progress of youth, I mean, that it doesn't reconcile, you know, it cannot reconcile at all with what you are saying. And therein lie my concern, you know. So what will happen eventually, we'll have a higher level of illiteracy, something that at one point in time I was saying that we as a nation have moved away from. And I mean, growing up as a young man up to this point in time in my life, I remember the days when there were just a few people who were educated. Now that the gap that existed then has narrowed tremendously, because of the opportunities that were given to every single child in Trinidad and Tobago, whether white or black or mixed, you know, to be educated and to become self-empowered. Now that is being rolled back, so to speak, and unfortunately, it didn't have a ratchet effect. And Brother Cook Kambu, would understand that terminology, you know, where you cannot roll back on these opportunities and privileges, but it's being done now. And so we're going to have a situation where, you know, more people will become illiterate. And when that happened, to close on this whole my presentation here, you know, is that people will, after the pressures of being disenfranchised and being marginalized and being treated with disrespect and being looked down on by a few people, that a level of resentment will develop. And when that reaches saturation point, we certainly will have civil unrest, and we may go right back to the days of 1970 and probably 1990. And by the way, I'm not advocating for that. I'm just facing the harsh realities of these sort of diabolical measures that are now being imposed upon our nation, and by extension our children, who are now being deprived the opportunity, notwithstanding they have the right to be educated, they are now being deprived the opportunity to be educated on the basis of vaccination.
Okay, thanks very much. Thanks very much. This is my father, Daniel George Sr. I am Daniel George Jr. And thanks for your contribution. Now, what I will do at this time, seeing that we don't have Mr. Philip online, so I'm guessing he got disconnected, and we are hoping he will get connected again. I am requesting of you, Mr. Williams and Mr. Daniel George Sr., that we go a little later into a discussion where, you know, we just have a chat on this, right? Because we had different ideas being presented, and now for us to really discuss the ideas, I trust that our viewers are also going to hold on with us right? Because it is so important. You know, hearing one thing from one person and people only speaking at you, you, you know, that is not really something that every, right? I think my internet is going, so I hope you all are hearing me, right? But while my internet is giving some challenges, if you all are hearing me, Mr. George and Mr. Williams, you all can start the discussion one time. I am unmuting your mics, so you all can probably go into the discussion one time. I am getting a lot of challenges with the internet, so you all can take it there. Okay, right. I see we have Mr. Philip. So now I'm asking for the three of you to jump into the discussion, right? When you all take a pause, you all could probably mute the mic, and when you're jumping back in, right, it's not like one person will have to cut and think. You all could interact then. That is the best way to say it, right? If any of you have a device, let me just mute your mics a little to say something here. If any of you have another device that is close by, a device that is looking at the live stream, whether it be from Facebook or YouTube, and feedback, right? So I'm not sure if that is the case, right? So I'm going to unmute again, and I will have my mic muted. And if I see the need to come in, probably to put out some of the comments that we are getting in the comment section on Facebook and YouTube, then I will come in, and I am trusting that you all will respond to those questions, right? So Mr. George and Mr. Williams, we lost Mr. Phillips again.
So we jump in here?
Yeah. I mute my mic already. Well, let's take it from there, no, man.
Well, what Mr. Daniel said there, you know, senior, he hit the nail on the head, because this is a segregation thing to control, right? I realize that from the first election into the second election, somebody realized we can use covert to control, we can use covert to divide, and we can use covert to conquer. And that has changed, because even some time ago, the CMO said that the Delta cases is in the communities throughout Trinidad and Tobago. But the mute virus, the mute virus, the P1 from Brazil that they was talking about, was all over Trinidad and Tobago. And I believe different environment, different attack. And where my friend said that he saw the numbers wavering, and we were looking like we're in a good spot, and then they start this craziness about vaccinate to operate or else, and they start to vaccinate from a wide scale. We saw the numbers shooting back up. Now, it is always easy to blame the unvaccinated to protect a vaccine, because I want to ask this question, right? And this concerning a 12-year-old child that died from the Pfizer vaccine, where I spoke to the parent, right, on the educational basis of this child that was taking his vaccine to go back to school, because this child didn't want it to feel left out. So I reached out to the parents, and we had the discussion. And they said the child took the vaccine today and died the next day. Then they came back and they said, Mr. Williams, well, we really don't want to go down that road because we are being threatened of the job that we are in, and the government this and the government that. And then they came back the next day, the family just want to leave it as is, and Mr. Williams, the pathologist, told us that the child died from natural causes. The massive heart attack was linked to natural causes. But we are all big, educated people in Trinidad and Tobago, and some of us who failed at the education system had to go back to school, meaning myself, right? But I know Dodo, and I know if the last thing that a child did, a 12-year-old child did before before anything else was take a vaccine and they died from a massive heart attack. It is the vaccine. It is the foreign entity that entered the body. You can't take a vaccination today, die tomorrow from a massive heart attack, and it's a natural causes. That is unheard of. That comes like heroin. We had a lot of, how to say it, autopsies when it came to heroin. You could go on YouTube, you could check here, there, everywhere, and you will find out that persons who had died from heroin overdoses, whether it be a massive heart attack or other issues, they would always blame the heroin, the crack cocaine. But we have a vaccine killing people, and we are getting, it was a massive heart attack, natural natural causes, but they're not putting out that the foreign entity that they put in that person's body, like crack cocaine, was the main cause of that death. And it is crazy, because we are going to lose a lot of more school children. We are seeing, as my friend Senior said, we are seeing a lot of mental issues out there. I have persons who have reached out to me who wants to commit suicide because they are feeling left out, and there's not much I can do because I don't hold the power. I am not a rich man, but I do my best at what I can do for those persons. Rather I be advocate to them through how to say, talk, listen to their problems, let them know you can call me anytime, talk to the children. And this thing is crazy because there's a lot of children who are against these vaccines. They don't want it, and there are a lot of parents that forcing these children because they are, rather it be politically affiliated or hardcore, and they're dragging the children for vaccines because they are PMM. No difference with the UNC. When Kamala took the vaccine, we saw a high majority of UNC people dragging the children also to get these vaccines. And I went to some of these vaccination points at these schools, especially the one in Vecini and the one in Point 14 by Egypt there, where the swimming pool is. And when you ask these people what they really understand or knows about the vaccine, this is the answer I get in. The Prime Minister said on his platform that it is okay, that it is safe, and he is taking responsibility. He will take care of the child if something happens, which he said on one of his platforms. But the sad thing about it, they're signing away that liability. They're taking it out of the government hand and putting it into their hands, and they don't understand. And this is what I cannot really, how to say it, hold up on, because there is no liability for this thing, no liability at all. And these vaccines are still being administered in our school children arms. This is craziness, and this needs to come to an end. It needs to come to an end now. I will let the other person continue.
Yeah, well, taking what you have said into consideration, I cannot help but ask myself the question, why the adamancy, right, to have people vaccinated when it seems as though not seem, but it is the harsh reality that the vaccination is having what I will call a deleterious effect upon people. First of all, they have made it clear that the vaccine does not prevent you from becoming COVID-19, right? And neither it doesn't prevent you from spreading it. So if you're looking at it logically, what's the sense then of taking the vaccine and it's not doing what it's supposed to do, unlike other vaccines like say for yellow fever, polio, etc., you know? To me, it makes no sense, you know? And what I've learned too is that in the first shot, you know, from doing a bit of research, is that it destroys about 15% of your immune system. And also the second shot will take out about 35%. So then at the end of the day, you are 15%, only 50% immunized, so to speak, you know, where you can resist diseases and so on. That is compromising your health and your well-being, right? But not only that too, now what I've learned too is that with this particular virus, unlike viruses in the past, right, where we have been immunized against those viruses, right, they never mutate. I can remember smallpox, I mean chickenpox or whatever you call it, dysentery,
Thank you.
polio and all of that mutating. In other words, it has a innate defense system that eventually will fight off the vaccine, mask itself, and mutate into another variant that is worse than it is. So something has to be wrong with this vaccine. Definitely wrong, you know. And one of the things I took note of either yesterday or today, I remember early when they started to have these press conferences, someone, a news reporter, asked a question about the financial arrangement and the conditions governing the purchase of the vaccine by the government. And they said that they had a non-disclosure agreement, right, which we call in short NDA. Now, I became suspicious of that, you know, and first I thought that it was because they didn't want to give the opposition any ammunition to work with to criticize the policy. But then taking all into consideration now in terms of what is happening with the fallout, and I call it the fallout with the vaccination, right? In general, is that there's something hidden in that arrangement that they cannot afford to bring to the public domain, you know,
Thank you.
and that creates a lot of suspicion and so on, you know. And then too, when you look at our freedom or rights, you know, to choose. And I know I was looking at it from a spiritual point of view. Now, if one could recall, for those of us who believe in creation by God and so on, you know, we were told that God told Adam and Eve, you know, not to eat of a particular fruit in the garden, right? So in other words, they were given a mandate by God, but they choose to eat it. Now, you notice that God did not intervene and prevent them from exercising that freedom of choice that He had given to them. And it means, therefore, if God, the supreme being, could have regard to your freedom of choice, the state also have to have your regards to your freedom of choice, you know. So it have a lot in the mix that really doesn't augurs well for the government and the position they have now taken, where you know it's mandated that you take this vaccine, and therefore I have a philosophy in life. If I'm uncertain about something, I'm not going to commit myself. If I'm at a crossroad and I don't know which direction to go, I will stay put until I am clear in my mind of which direction I should
Thank
go.
you. I agree with you fully.
Well, I see Mr. Kambu is
Will you
back.
hear me? I don't know.
Yeah.
Will you hear me?
You want to say anything?
Yeah, but I want to
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Will you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm hearing
Yeah.
you. Want to see you too.
We hearing you, but we ain't seeing you.
Okay. Because my machine here gave me a whole set of trouble. Well,
Right. That's in the glass.
I just seen a thing now, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We talking about that thing about. It's kind of I don't know what to do here. But we talking about wondering well why did we know it is clear. Sometime in March, I can't remember the exact date, to be about the 22nd. 23 countries met and signed an agreement that they would vaccine by 2022. Only 23 leaders, you know, and the other person, the 24 signatories, the other signatory was the WHO. And one of the 23 out of over 150 countries, you know, Trinidad and Tobago Prime Minister was one of the signatories.
Thank you.
So without telling us anything up to this date, Trinidad and Tobago to vaccinate the whole country to please the Western world. And those 23 countries was really them Western countries plus the allies like Bolivia and them kind of thing. And that is so shameful. So we know that our Prime Minister Keith Christopher Rowley has to work on behalf of the people who benefiting from the sale of those vaccines.
Thank you.
Because the only selling vaccine is to appease the pharmaceutical industry. That's the only reason. And repeat again, 23 countries out of the whole world, and we are one of it. And we wondering why we moving so dread to get them cup. We have job the children to get the numbers. We don't care about if they die or if they get sick. That is not important. Once we get the people to get the numbers up, and once we could fool the world like the health minister told the world when Nicki Minaj said her thing, we have no vaccine deaths. And we know it's a lie. We live in
that is a blatant lie.
We know it's a lie.
That is a blatant lie.
Vaccine deaths.
A lot of vaccine deaths.
And even
maybe over 600 or 700 vaccine deaths.
Yes. 20 deaths. Every day I hear about them. Every single day I hear about them.
As a matter of fact, I have a friend of mine who called me at night just around 10 o'clock and asked me to pray for a family. He said that it was a family of 8. They were strong and healthy. They went and took the vaccine, and 2 days after, everybody came down sick.
That is happening all the time.
A lot of people taking the first dose, and the immune system is getting weakened by the first dose, being attacked, and then bam, COVID. They're dead, and then they are put as COVID victims and not vaccine victims. The culprit was the vaccine. If they didn't take the vaccine, they would have had the COVID. They would not die. They would have a strong immune system to fight off the COVID. So it's the vaccine.
Exactly.
They say whatever they want.
And I will tell you something. I have a lot of strong suspicion that the powers that be, like the Minister of Health and some of them, right, government ministers, let me be more precise, who claim they have taken the vaccine. I'm not sure if they took the vaccine or not.
Well, word on the ground, we have a lot of
I know
white paper going out there, but with government signatures.
But I want to ask a question, and I want to direct this question
for some people.
Yeah. Well, they say we have freedom of information, but I doubt very much that fall within that ambit, yes, getting that kind of information.
No. They say once it interferes with the government business, we are not allowed the information under the changes they made in that policy. So the government protected at all angles.
Yeah. But one of the things I came to realize today is the fact that when the COVID came out and so on and people started to die, they talk about respecting people's privacy, but I don't realize that was a sham. What they were trying is to protect the fallout, you understand, of taking the vaccine and all of that. It was that was to make sure that down the road, if people get sick as a result of that, if they spread the COVID now, or if they die as a result of that, they had already put things in place for cover up.
But something I want to know here. We just had a budget, right? We just had a budget, and you were talking. Danny, you just talk about the disclosure clause that they're talking about, right?
Yeah.
But we just had a budget. So what budget could we know how much is the expenditure we have in vaccines? And where in the budget did they? Because they're not telling us that all the people are vaccinated now. Sooner or later, they'll be getting booster jabs.
Thank you.
Exactly. Exactly.
So that's a cost.
Booster doses all wrong.
Of course, they're not telling us anything. Because we get it 2 jabs. Which one is Johnson? Johnson is 1 jab. But everybody who gets a vaccine will have to get. They have to be rolling up the sleeves again and again, getting jab.
The evidence is out there. Even in America, they are saying too much breakthrough cases, so they have to go back to vaccinating with booster and so on. Anthony Fauci even said it himself. So, as my brother Daniel said, why are we vaccinating our people? Why we want to choose to vaccinate our children, 5-year to 11-year-old? And Rowley said it. If he have to do what he have to do, he's going to force the hands of the people, and that the 5-year-olds are going to get those vaccines.
But let me ask this question: how?
Somebody have to force his hands off the children, you know.
But
Yeah.
but this is what it coming to now. It coming to a clash. You understand? Because this is a kind of Gestapo type arrangement you're talking about here now, where brute force is the order of the day. Because if I have a 5-year child who come in my house to take my child to vaccinate them, without some resistance.
Going on 5, we are already living in a Stalin style Gestapo kind of Trinidad and Tobago, Nazi Germany.
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if the Prime Minister give instruction to the army to grab we and jab we. It might reach to that all out jabbing spree. Because as far as I'm concerned, he has to do it.
In trouble. Just give me 1 second. Bear with me first, okay? Just bear with me. So continue the conversation.
Let me say something here, right? Well, you hear me?
Yeah, this thing will get dread. This thing will get real dread, but.
Well, you hear me, right?
And again, Daniel.
Yeah.
Yes, I hear you now. Yes.
Right, I just wanted to slip in something here. Mr. Philip just made a very important point that somebody will have to. I think it's Mr. Philip just said it. I hope I'm accusing the wrong person here. Right? But the point was just made that somebody will have to force Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley hands off the children. Right? And that is something. Well, all I know, I trust God, I have faith, I am very firm in whatever I do. Because I, in rolling on, no thought of how much guns, because gunmen just get licked down and all kind of things, right? But what I am saying here is that Rowley, I'm talking to you here, just interrupt them here and we will hear from them again just now. But your hands will be moved off the children. You see just how Pharaoh was playing harden, but he had was to let God's people go. You playing harden, and probably, well, the Bible did say God hardened Pharaoh heart. Pharaoh didn't harden his own heart. So probably God hardened in your heart to test my faith. But my faith so strong, Mr. Rowley, that I telling you, I, Daniel George Jr., I don't mix it up and play attacking my father this senior, because I, Daniel George Jr., talking to you right now. I will be part of making sure that your hand is moved back in here. There's not no attack on you being declared. You are attacking our nation's children, and we are going to stand in defense of our nation's children fearlessly. And I am not careful to say that. I am not, just like the 3 Hebrew boys, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, I am not careful to tell you that. So I'm just going to exclude myself again because I was enjoying it. And all you know me, I go be here every night, 8 p.m. talking. So let me put back these gentlemen to continue their wonderful discussion. Okay, I see like Mr. Williams and Mr. Philip got disconnected. So in the meanwhile, you could probably continue until we have them back to join you in discussion again.
Okay, one of the questions I wanted to ask Mr. Peterson Philip, seeing that he was a former union official, was on the question of recourse. in terms of legal recourse, for our rights being infringed upon, and our freedom being, taken away from us, given the fact that from a legal perspective, maybe not in the context of Trinidad and Tobago, no, but from a universal point of view, that we have legal rights of choice as to what goes into our body and what does not go into our body, that sort of thing,
Look, you return here so you could give him the question direct one time. I see he is back on with us.
Yeah, Peter, Camboy.
Get bump off, I believe I
By the
should be
time we
back on
waiting
now.
on Mr. Williams, you could.
Yeah, Camboy, saying as a man who have been involved in negotiation, fighting for the rights of workers, right? What legal recourse do we have, seeing that our rights are now being trampled upon and we are denied our God-given right to choose what should go into our bodies and what should not go into
Sit
our
on
body?
my legs.
Do we have legal recourse for that?
No.
Well, maybe Mr. Williams could answer the question. Yeah, Mr. Williams, what I was asking Mr. Kambui is do we do
Oh, it's
what
me,
legal
that.
huh?
Didn't even know I was back on.
Oh yes, you were back on. But you heard what I was saying, right?
No, I didn't hear the question.
Okay, the question, but I was saying as much as you have been involved in representing people and representing the rights of workers, right? And you know all the legal ramifications that goes with companies infringing upon workers' rights. What legal redress or recourse we have, in terms of protecting our rights and seeing that our rights do not continue to be trampled upon by the state. I'm sure there might be some avenue whereby that could be addressed.
Well, we heard the industrial court, a judge said that the businessmen and women in Trinidad and Tobago, not the government, have the legal right or tender to change the contracts that they have when it comes to the high workers and so on, to add even the health parts, to add the COVID vaccines, right? But a lot of people do not have the money to take the government to court or their bosses to court, so they just give in. We have a lot of people just giving in. A lot of people, instead of waiting for a letter, they get a phone call, don't come to work if you're not vaccinated, and they stay home instead of they go on the jobs. And I've been telling people, go on the jobs. Let it fire you. Let it give you a letter. Let it do what they had to do, and then you deal with them, because there's no justification in forcing workers right now towards getting vaccination. Even in PRO-C-VANE, in Atlantic Energy, where we started to hustle from time to time, now they are telling the workers in Atlantic Energy that they have to get vaccinated. Contractors have to vaccinate their workers. Otherwise, they have to pay for the PCR test and the antigen test, and that is going to take a big chunk out of their money. So they are just working every fortnight to pay for a test. And a lot of people do not want to go down that road. They have families to mind, bills to pay, so they're just giving in. But if folks in Trinidad and Tobago stand up and puff up their chest and say no to vaccination, no to any type of mandatory or vaccination, we will prevail. But we have a lot of weak-minded people in Trinidad and Tobago, and this is one of the biggest issue. And Keith Rowley has realized using the SOE is weakening the strength of the people more, even where many people have not heard, right? Just now, son. Many people have not heard that they plan to break the SOE, right? Victor Roberts and I from Library have been talking about this. They plan to break the SOE because under the Constitution, if they do not get the 3/5 majority, they cannot bring a new SOE. But if they break the SOE before the end, they can create a new formula to get a free 90 days without any type of opposition, which will leave Trinidad and Tobago a 2-day or 3-day span where we can come out in mass protest and stay out there as long as it takes. But I am just watching to see, right? I know I cannot stray away from your question, but the thing is, at the end of the day, the way Crowley is swinging it, that he is king. He is how to say it? He is king. He's the man with the whip, and whatever policies he, the AG, and others come out with to remove majorities, we have to flow with it. We have to flow with it. So right now, the way the courts are biased, the way the system is, I don't think there is anything the courts will do to stamp this down. We can go months and months while people get vaccinated and lose their jobs, or we can come out in mass protest. There's no other way. Or there is one other way. We can pick up arms. We can pick up arms against the government, bring bloodsheds on the street, and this is not what we want. For my son, if they try to go down that road, we can lift that hand. But I am in the political arena now, and I want to keep holding on to that democratic belief that things can change by the people, for the people, standing with the people. But the people have to wake up, right? I want us to do it the democratic way. I don't want the violent way. I don't want the sword. I don't want the bloodshed, right? But the people of Trinidad and Tobago, towards protecting our 5-year-olds to 11, our 12 to 18, towards stopping the deaths of our citizens, rather they be senior or just normal young citizens. We have to get up. If we want a system that works for us, we have to get up. Otherwise, as my friend said, Daniel, as you have said, the people with the white paper, the minority, and it's not a lot of people vaccinated in this country. A lot of people who have taken the first dose have decided that they're not taking the second dose, and that's a large majority. So we have a minority that will be controlling everything with a piece, because they have a piece of white paper stating that they're free to operate. They're free to operate, and our children, you and I, who are seeing that there are no enhancement, no sense in taking these vaccines, because as you said, we can still get sick, we can still die, we can still end up being breakthrough cases, right? We can end up being paralyzed like the child, the 25-year-old who in Montauk Hospital from the neck down, right? And they will always put it out as some comorbidities or some natural death or some natural death. And we know it's the vaccine. That is why we are not taking the vaccines, because we are not no dodos. We are educated. We brought ourselves to a certain level. We can do our own. We're seeing what's going on there in the bigger world. I don't know what's going on in America. America is crazy. Canada has moved at dictatorship pace like Trinidad and Tobago. And in England, the United Kingdom, they have moved differently when it comes to vaccination and mandates, because the people of England stand up. My daughter is going to college unvaccinated, no white card. She's going to work unvaccinated, no white card. She goes to the pub, even though I'm not agreeable with that, but she goes to the pub, she goes to the cinema, she enjoys the freedom of living in the UK. She's a citizen. While we in Trinidad and Tobago are sitting here and watching one another in our faces as our children die, as our citizens die, and a prime minister who feel, because COVID is a thing, they could talk about Delta in the community, they could talk about Mu, they could talk about the P1, and they could keep whipping us. No, time to bring that to an end. It has to come to an end. And we, the people, have to wake up and do it.
Well, I believe that you... I believe that...
Just let me jump in and give you all some of the questions, because we cannot leave out those who are in the discussion through Facebook and YouTube, right? Any of you, probably one of you could choose to answer one and the next person respond to the next, right? So we had a question on YouTube from Hazel. Well, Hazel is saying, it just crossed my mind that we are trying to stop bullying, considered a form of bullying, just asking. And then on Facebook, I'm seeing from Colin Martin, Deborah Thomas Felix alluded to people's rights as head of the industrial court, right? So I think that is an important part that we cannot leave out because, we didn't really have much persons with such authority making any kind of stance to defend our rights, right? So I will leave you all to decide which of you will respond to those, and you all could continue, and somewhere in between, I will drop in another 2 comments, right? So I'm muting myself again.
Right, in the context of what Deborah... Go ahead. Go ahead, Gambi.
I was saying I will take the easy one. I will take the easy one, the very easy one, the first one. Yes,
the industrial related one.
And the straight answer, yes, it's bullying. No, what people was asking if forcing people.
Oh yeah.
Bullying, that is bullying.
Well, while bullying is a form of abuse, right? While bullying is a form of abuse, I would rather use the word abuse because it have a much stronger connotation. It's abuse of our privilege or rights and privileges, not by us, but in terms of the power that be, that's how I see it.
Well, yes.
Because they see now ultimately,
yes, bullying is just a subset of abuse.
It is truly abusing all of us. Fundamental rights.
Yes, some feedback somewhere. I don't know where, but we're getting some feedback.
Not from me. I don't have any other device on.
Oh, and just before you all go with the other question, right? I'm not sure if you all are able to see the question popping up on your screen, right? So if at any given time I don't raise a question that you all want to respond to, you all are free to do that, right? Because when I mute, the ball is more in your court.
Yeah. But let me just finish off my point with this abuse, right? Now, abuse have the impact of causing people to lose their sense of self-worth, right? And they feel less than anybody else. And invariably, what will happen now with this new this paradigm shift, so to speak, where privileges are concerned, in that you must be vaccinated to get by in life, right? Or as they say, to operate, that it will have the same effect. It will have the same effect, where the unvaccinated will feel, well, look, they're nobody, they're left out, they're not considered, they're unimportant, they don't matter, so to speak, right? And that's the same effect that bullying does have on you. You understand, right? So everybody will be looking down on us because I am one of those who are unvaccinated and have no intention of taking any vaccination. So I will fall into that category now of one of those who will be marginalized, disenfranchised, and well, probably not left behind, but you understand the point I'm making.
Left behind.
I done 66 already, Yeah.
Don't leave all the concern at all with the industrial court. And on this note, I just saw a comment that I think I want to slip in one time. Someone is saying, I'm not seeing the comment here, but someone is saying that the Prime Minister
just
is afraid
over and die.
Pardon?
Nah.
Someone is saying that the Prime Minister is afraid. Keith Rowley, our Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley, is afraid of ending up like the Prime Minister or President in Haiti, right? So I just want to drop in that, and I will mute again.
Well, Judge, I really want to comment on what Deborah Felix said, but I just want to say this, right, that hopefully whatever we say wouldn't border on sedition and seem to be inciting, violence. We have to be very mindful that what we say could be misconstrued by people and taken out of context, What Deborah Felix did say in reference to the rights of workers, she did send a warning to business owners, right? That they stand very little chance of winning in court. they stand very little chance of winning in court against the employee. And this evening I was advising somebody, if your boss call you and tell you, if you're not vaccinated, don't come to work, ask them to put that in writing.
Thank
Because
you.
once the door is open for you to sue that person, you have documented evidence signed by that business owner that will work in your favor, because outside of that you'd be only going on hearsay, you know, and is my word against your word, that kind of thing.
And
And
the
then
door
again,
will
to
open. The door will open.
yes, I
It
see that,
will open.
because from an international perspective, the work is being done now and research is being done to make sure that that avenue is fully explored by those who have been disenfranchised or disadvantaged by the whole policy of vaccinator operator.
So what we would say to citizens here, do not walk off the job without a piece of paper. Let them
Yeah.
fire you. If they tell you don't come to work over the phones, go to work. Let them move all with security. Tape it. Get all the evidence. Put it together. The time will come and they will fail and they will fall.
Right, and I'll tell you this, the importance of that. Now, let us say, for example, I decide, well, I'm not, well, went to work, and the boss decide, well, I don't have access to the workplace, and send me back home, and I didn't have it in writing. And the other workers could choose now to take bribe, or to take, some kind of remuneration, well, some monetary offer, and say, well, look, they don't know anything about that, they were not part of the conversation, and so on. But once I have that documented, I have a
Thank you.
case.
Get all the documents. Be smart. Don't let them outsmart all you. What they're doing is an injustice to the way we operate in Trinidad and Tobago, and it is unlawful.
Correct. But we talking right now. We talking to a lot of people who saying the same thing home. I won't repeat it, but I won't repeat exactly what they said. I spoke to a parent recently, and her daughter, 15 years old, from 4, and the teacher is not teaching her at home. The teacher told her that she can't teach home and school. And the parent and other parents, they're not taking it easy. And the sad thing is that they're talking about going to court, but
I understand.
this is getting sad.
Yep.
This
Because
is
what?
sad.
Even in Tobago, I'm hearing in Tobago from 4s and 6 at home doing online classes. They're shutting it down. They're shutting it down. It's like they now they want to force students to make a choice, and it is going to happen all over Trinidad and Tobago, where the online classes, it is going to be shut down, and they're going to say make a choice, come face to face or stay without education. And as my brothers say here, that is what it is coming to, where many of us unvaccinated are going to be left behind. So it is going to be apartheid. It is going to end up in a situation where things can get really out of hand. And this is what we don't want. So Keith Rowley and his administration needs to sit back and look at, take a clear note and look at, vision-wise, the craziness that they are doing.
But I just say that, it have an anomaly I want us to address. And I think my son addressed that recently. Now, we are told that unvaccinated teachers will be allowed to work alongside vaccinated teachers. But here the problem is that the unvaccinated student cannot study together with the vaccinated student. I can't reconcile that at all. Anybody would like to comment on that?
So hear what they're saying. Unvaccinated teachers may be less likely to infect students. I think that's what they may be saying. But the students unvaccinated might be more likely to infect students who are vaccinated. And that is crazy, because remember, they keep telling us that we are the dangers to the vaccinated people. We are dangerous to the vaccinated people. But if you are vaccinated, how can we be a danger to you? And there are a lot of people with education, but they fall short because they need to ask themselves this question. If a prime minister or the makers of the vaccines could tell all you, Anthony Fauci and others could tell all you that the unvaccinated is a danger to fully vaccinated people, where we are seeing breakthrough cases, vaccinated people fully who are dying and so on, how we are a danger to them? How are we? In what way?
You know that parallels to, imagine you have on a bulletproof vest and I tell you, boy, don't let nobody shoot you, you know. You understand? So the bulletproof vest is designed to protect you from gunshots, right? But I telling you that don't let nobody shoot you. Something had to be wrong with that. You must question the validity of what I'm saying about this bulletproof vest. It's not no bulletproof vest at all. It just doesn't make sense, you know. It just doesn't. And by the way, the issue with children being contributing towards the spread of the COVID among other students. To me, I have questions about that because to me, the younger you are, the stronger your immune system, if I'm not mistaken.
Thank you very much.
I want to interrupt here a little again. We have a concern that is really directly related to the discussion tonight, very on point on the topic. Someone is saying my son is a Form 5 student, of course, and the teacher was directed not to teach online. This is so sad, right? And I really wish more parents will come out and speak out. I will just leave it to any of you to respond here.
I will say to all the parents throughout Trinidad and Tobago with unvaccinated children, prepare yourselves to teach all the children by yourself, because they want more numbers. They want numbers. With more numbers, Keith Rowley could control. He wants a 70%, but I am praying that the people don't give him. But I will say to the people of Trinidad and Tobago who are online schooling, I would say to the students, don't worry, better days are coming. But I will say to the parents, you need to support children, because sooner or later there's going to be a breakdown of that system. There is going to be a breakdown of that system.
Exactly. It will fail. It would fail, and I think it's on the threshold of failing. I think so, because and you made a salient point, because we have a 16-year-old here who's now in Form 4, right? And among us, right, we have a lot of educators. So and I've already decided to work with him in certain areas, subjects that I am very strong in, like POB, social studies, English, and a bit of maths, right? And he has siblings who have degrees and all of that. And so what could happen apart from families being able to help their children and so on, right? People could pool their resources now as friends and neighbors and well-wishers and circumvent this whole issue of vaccinate to be educated, you know?
Well, I just if you finish, someone asking why isn't the school considered a safe zone? I'm sure if I put the question right, but I think that's what they're asking about there. So I don't know if one of you want to touch on that, because we hear that certain places are safe zones, yet we have in these places where first of all, children, they have this thing with age restrictions with children being in safe zones, and then children, they don't want children to be at risk. And I think one of you mentioned, probably Mr. Williams, or one of you spoke about, or I think two of you probably touched on it just now, with teachers being unvaccinated, being allowed with the children. So some parents, right, I think I'm glad this point was just raised. A lot of parents reported to us that their children are vaccinated, sent their children to school. And then some teachers reported to us that many vaccinated students didn't show up in school, right? So it's because they don't know whether it's a safe zone or not, right? So that comes back to the question, why isn't it clear whether the school, for those who feel that the children are vaccinated and they want the children to be safe? Because let me make it clear here, while I am against the vaccination, PRO-C-VANE, and including myself, we are in support of all parents, whichever choice they make. Right? So I don't know if one of you want to respond to the confusion in the minds as to whether the school is a safe zone or not, and why isn't that being established by the same government who know all which part is safe zone and who should be there and who shouldn't be there.
Let
Well,
me say something.
this,
They can never
yeah,
make schools
well,
a safe zone because what are they going to bus the children from home to the school? Are they going to bus children who have to travel in car to car, maxi to maxi, or transport to transport? Are they going to bus them? Are they going to put some yellow buses and mark fully vaccinated students, stop by the parents' them doors, pick up these students them and bus them to the schools? They are not going to do that. They cannot make schools a safe zone because at the end of the day, the children them are taking transport wherever it may be to get to the schools. They are open up to getting some type of mutation, to ending up being a breakthrough case, something. So at the end of the day, they can't make it safe zones. They can't. They could try how hard. They can't.
But how I see it now, if you look at the conditions that governs what they define as a safe zone, everybody has to be vaccinated. Now, in the school situation, it's different because they have unvaccinated teachers working with vaccinated teachers, so it disqualifies the school from being a safe zone. That's how I see it.
Now, you have to remember the safe zones that they have out there, they will have unvaccinated workers also. They will have a lot of unvaccinated workers in the Syrians them safe zones. I say again, the Syrians them safe zone, the rich safe zones, right? So they I don't know. They're puzzling this thing. They're puzzling up themselves about this thing. They ain't sure what they're doing as far as I see.
Okay, but before you go on, Junior, why I made that argument just now is because apart from declaring certain areas safe zone, they also made them sign to the fact that in terms of agreeing with their particular entity being a safe zone, right? That they ultimately agree that if they breach the protocols of that safe zone, they'll be fined $25,000. And what they also said is that they will be sending people to check to make sure that all the people operating this so-called bubble of safe zone are fully vaccinated. So that is why I made the point that the school. Yeah.
Let me say a robbery happening in one of the zones, and they have no vaccinated police officers to go into those safe zones, stop the robbery or check the murder that took place. And an unvaccinated police officer go there or an unvaccinated team. Are they going to charge that team? Are they going to charge that team? As I said, this meant they do not know how to manage, they do not know how to create, and this is a big problem and should be a big problem for a lot of us in Trinidad and Tobago, vaccinated and unvaccinated.
I want to jump on our
we should realize by now that this is not about making sense. The government come out to make sense. It's just to come up with kind of method to coerce and to force people to take that question, they will implement it. But they know that the school cannot be a safe zone because the union is strong. I don't think any. Well, I'm talking about the unions.
Somebody just mentioned unions.
I'm not hearing enough from the unions.
The unions have made themselves political. Come on, guys. From the union, they fight the battle to remove the PNM and fight the battle to remove the UNC, then fight the battle to put the PNM back in power, then fight the battle to... They have made themselves political. And by making themselves political, they no longer have a voice. They just have a name, some letters, and that is about it for them.
I do not totally disagree with the union getting involved in politics, and I think most of you will know that. However, I don't agree with anybody, be it union or any type of activist, any community leader, being purchased. right, I have a big problem with people being purchased. And I realize that there are very few activists, there are very few community leaders who are speaking out. And I already know that some of them probably didn't get a big check, but some of them have to keep a position. Some of them have to remain in
I
a
could call
status
some
so that
names.
when they go to apply for funds, for donations, here and there, they will always get through. So they will in want a favor and different things, right? We'll come back right there, but I just want to
I could call some names.
But what, as a
it have a platform for that. It have a platform
as a
for that, right? So
diehard union supporter, sorry, as a diehard union supporter, I don't want to let this slip. Why should you Uriah Buzz Butler turn in his grave when Uriah Buzz Butler was first a political leader, then a trade unionist? You know, Butler was never president at OWT. A lot of people don't know that. But Butler was political leader of a political party that won the general election in 1950.
They did win, yes.
He couldn't form the government because of the system of government we had. Stated clearly they had some nominated members who outnumbered the elected people. So the nominated members just join with the opposition and just show who they like. They were having a Butler. People say, I mean, I ain't gonna hold this. But the thing is, she's here now. I can remember once in primary school, my daughter came home with I used to look at the books, you know. The teacher put on the board and they write it down. Tuba Butler was a union leader. I said, what? I sent back out to the teacher. Oh, no, into my daughter. I said, I know that. I said, look, know your history. How you would refer to him as a union leader for stuff? He was a political leader who actually won national elections. But because of the system of government, he couldn't form the government. Right? So Butler could never be rolling in his grave if the unionists are politicians. In fact, I always say, I might be at variance with all here, but I always say, if anyone is good enough to lead me as a worker, they're good enough to lead my country too.
Once they're not purchased. Once they're not purchased.
Well, I don't know that. I don't know that these days that unions are purchased. I my belief. I don't believe that. A popular thing going around, which I know is not true. Right? They say that the prime minister give some labor leader money, and it was clear that money was offered, it was publicly refused, and people still the PLM people say they know it's wrong, but they push it underground and telling people that look, and still collect so and so and so, and they know it's not true.
I can support you on that what you're saying, right? But I just want to dive back into a comment here, right? Regarding what we came to really deal with, right? Someone is talking about the teachers who where is it? Something referring to the teachers being supported by the union, right? Tutor, of course, right? And Dr. Rajiv Siraram responded to a question I threw out on Monday, 4th October, which was Monday gone there, while we were at the Ministry of Education on St. James Street in Port of Spain, right? So during the interview, well, I was wearing an X hat, doing a little interviewing, and I asked about that. And what he is saying is that the teachers have the union to defend them. And I think he either asked or he stated that the children don't have anyone to defend, or he probably asked who does the children have to defend them? Right now, I'm glad this come up. What I want you all to probably say in your own words. Hey, I didn't realize we dropped off Mr. Williams, so we have him back here. What I would like for any of you to say in your own words to the viewers on this note, right? And then you all could jump back into where you all were going with the discussion. If it is teachers could be defended, you're blocking my light. If the teachers could be defended and the government have to accept it, which means the teachers are within their rights.
Exactly.
Children, we believe, have rights as well because they are human beings. What would you say to the viewers in terms of in terms of a way to defend the children? And I'm seeing it's now 12 past 10, so we will go to 18 more minutes, which will bring us to 10:30, right? So what will you all say just before you jump back into where you all were heading with the discussion to the viewers in terms of the children? Because at the end of the day, we want to achieve the objective of making sure that we have equal education opportunities for all students in Trinidad and Tobago, and to ensure that their rights are being protected. So I'm switching off here, muting here now.
The less young
what I would say, what I would say, if we as parents decide our children not going to be, we will not allow them to be vaccinated, that in itself, right, will undermine the effort of the state to have an education system that only caters for vaccinated students. Once we are in the majority, then it will take away from the value of that kind of new system, because only a handful of children. And I mean, think about it, right? When you look at the cost to educate a child, one, in terms of paying the teachers, upkeep of maintenance of the building and all of that, you know, and it doesn't make sense just having a class with 5 children, some with 15 out of 30 and all that. Eventually it will dismantle that whole system. So I think the real strength in our effort here in terms of defense of our children is to ensure that we don't have them vaccinated.
The Daniel George Jr. will understand totally what I'm going to say now. I am an advocate because it's necessary. We have grown years knowing the National Parent Teacher Association, and instead of it getting stronger, it has broken down to just a shadow of itself. We're not even hearing from them, right? And there are other parent organizations coming up. We have the, what I want to call the name, but we have 2 other organizations coming up, and the parents cannot be a strong force from splintered groups. Cannot. So who speaking for the children?
Well, I didn't want to say what I'm going to say, but you put me on the spot here.
I know I play out.
You actually call my name. Yeah, when you finish, I'm going to say something.
In the UK have a strong parent association that actually put a squeeze on those vaccination pushes in the UK. Trinidad and Tobago have a fight-on system. Parents fighting against parents. People trying to take leadership, how to say, positions in a parent association in Trinidad and Tobago with that is so questionable. And there is no environment for strength when it comes between the associations concerning children in this country. If Trinidad and Tobago had a full force, strengthened parent association, I don't believe Rowley would have his way in this country. But it don't have one. But there we have been and say, brother.
Right. So what happened is a lot of disunity has been taking place, and there was an agenda by the Ministry of Education to dismantle some PTAs, right? And using, of course, some of the members to undermine each other. And the ministry started to have principals taking an active role. And what a lot of people don't know is that the same principals who are very instrumental in breaking up PTAs, these principals have their own union. So there's the union for the secondary and the union for the primary that we don't even hear about. I had to send a PTA president links to show them that these are existing unions and they are on social media. They wouldn't even send out invites for people to like the page because they don't want you to realize they also have their union, yet they want to mash up the little association that parents and teachers have. Now, what some principals do, for them to dictate a parent-teacher association which is supposed to be independent, they formed PTOs, parent-teacher organization, and who is the head of it? The principals in most cases, right? And I could even call out names of schools where that happened, but I will only make mention to one school where I ended up in PTA, right? Due to, well, my wife listening, and I don't want Ole to hear that. I don't want she to hear her telling Ole that she sent me to a meeting and set me up because I didn't know it was PTA meeting and they would have elected me as secretary. But anyhow, the principal in that school, I could recall one day the principal telling the region president in front of my face, "Can I have another secretary?" The president said no, and said that in front of the president of our unit and vice president of our unit. And it's because the principal finds she should be in control of the PTA and we were very militant. But what I'm saying is that a lot of the things that going on within the PTA started by the ministry pushing an agenda, and one of the persons within the PTA who was very, very, very instrumental in undermining the PTA have been playing cards and socializing in other ways with the minister, right? And boasting about it, that the minister is his close friend, right? So back then we had Anthony Garcia, and I can't remember this next one name, who came to Point 14 a few times, right? But there was a real plot, and that plot has been more on the successful side, I can say, but there are steps being taken, and I am not in agreement with all the steps that are being taken or how it is being taken, and I think that is why Mr. Peterson will talk in a particular way. He share that similar view, right? But in terms of parents or people standing up, what I could say right now, I decided you wasn't here in PRO-C-VANE or seeing me coming up on PRO-C-VANE platform because we more deal with cases and stuff like that of child abuse, right? And we deal with education and stuff like that. And we didn't really decide to take this kind of approach. But when I realized the PTA is not where it's supposed to be, I decided we have to come forward. But I must say, Mr. Philip, Mr. George Sr., and Mr. Williams, that there is the responsible parent group of Trinidad and Tobago. It is not a PTA. It is parents. It is led by Dr. Rajiv Siraram and other members. And it is closely knitted with the first wave movement that right now they have a legal some legal steps being taken with, I will name one of the lawyers, Judy Kublal Singh, right? I saw the document. I can't remember how much pages it was, but it is real incredible. And while we know the justice system can be delayed, so we can't say we will just wait for that legal action to happen. It is a hand-in-hand thing with the first wave movement, which PRO-C-VANE is pleased to be affiliated with, right? So things are happening, and we not even going to focus on whether the PTA is sane or they insane. We in, you know why I touch on tutor in the past few live streams is because at the end of the day, it's about the students and the teachers being attacked. And I will say it probably, I know you all wouldn't have been in the past live streams, but I was explaining that very soon there was going to go to the next phase, and we seeing it come to pass now where they're already talking about taking our next age group of vaccinated students back to school, and then it will go straight down to the primary and pre, of course, and then it will even go to tertiary level. But what will happen in the secondary and primary schools, they will say, okay, if we have four classes, and we only have 3 children in each class, 4 3s are 12, then we don't need all the teachers. So what about the unvaccinated teachers who were not standing up all the time? And I made reference last night that just how OWTU couldn't stop Petrotrin from closing, tutor will not stop the teachers who are not jabbed from getting fired, right? So that is why I continue to say, continue to speak to tutor. But in terms of the PTA, if we are here in the PTA, we will improvise. We have the first wave movement. We have you right here tonight, right? Daniel George Sr., my father, he could say, and even you, Mr. Philip, can say that there are doctors and lawyers and hundreds of people meeting on a daily basis and taking some steps. So I wouldn't dwell too much on what's happening with the PTA. That will sort out in due time. And it's sad, Mr. Philip. It's really sad that should have been the voice, and we're not hearing that voice. Oh gosh, I get so passionate there that
I said something earlier on about the.
Go ahead.
Yeah, earlier on I said something about the parents, of the 15-year-old Form 4 girl, right? But what I see happening here, from what I'm hearing, parents, because of this separation stupidness, parents are actively organizing on the ground. Separate and different from all these organizations. They are organizing on the ground using and they're using unconventional means to make themselves heard. That I ain't saying as a warning, but that is happening. And in those movements, it would have vaccinated and unvaccinated children, unvaccinated parents who have vaccinated children. Because
I want to suggest it be classed as a warning.
The vaccine is not against us, no. Many of them fighting with us.
Yeah, but I want to suggest it be classed.
But that's what I was going to say. And
I am not against them. I am with them.
That's what I was about to say.
Choice.
I was about to say that movement on the ground is not only unvaccinated, because people feel forced and coerced. I want to borrow that term from PRO-C-VANE. You have to make that that anthem. People feel feel what is your word, Danny? Not insulted, not bullied. What's the word?
Abuse.
And
people feel abused, and they're taking that seriously.
And remember, we have a big percentage of folks out there who took the first doses and have decided not to take the second doses. These people, after really figuring out and feeling the effects, they feel betrayed. They feel lied to.
Yes. Correct. But apart from the taking the vaccine, not taking the vaccine, parents whose children have been, you will have a vax child and an unvaxxed child. The vax child wouldn't really want to go to school if when they go to school, they're meeting their friends,
Exactly.
Once you're looking to go to school to meet your friends, your friends are back, so you're meeting your friend. What are you going to school for? I mean, people don't go to.
And that is part of the social fallout with this whole vaccination versus unvaccinated, you know.
Yes.
But I just want to make one closing point, right? Because I realize our time is almost up. You know, and this is not to absolve the government from responsibility for what happened, you know, but we must take into consideration that what is happening in Trinidad and Tobago is part of a global agenda. Unfortunately, we subscribe to it.
Correct. Yes.
Well, I would say
Correct.
here we're going on. Maybe right is so, but how the UK was able to dodge that bullet, that my daughter have a right that we don't have in Trinidad and Tobago, right? We need a prime minister. We need a government who could handle business, who have balls. We have people who have been leading this country for years that have vaginas, not balls, right? And we need somebody with balls who could take this country to the next level, who could stand against billionaires who want to force vaccines on our people and our children, because it is time. It is time.
Well, I think
the older people in this chat, like me and Daniel Senior, will be familiar with a political cry called "Power to the People."
Yeah,
that is what happened in England. I saw masses of people, thousands of people, flood the streets of London, and when they did that, the Prime Minister had to listen and take note. If you don't do that, nobody listening to you. So it's not sitting and begging Rowley to have a heart and do this. As I tell you, we have to move his hand in a certain way.
I appreciate. And if all those people in England is listening to me and in the international arena, I appreciate the people in England who stood up for my daughter's right in England, my daughter's right to choice. And this needs to happen in Trinidad and Tobago.
I tell you, we need to remember the term power to the people. People on the streets is the biggest power. You can't shoot down a whole nation if they're on the streets.
I think what has happened in Trinidad.
To do this. What?
Yeah. I think what has happened in Trinidad now is the sovereign right of nation has been cremated.
Well, all right. So we reach at the point here. We reach at the point here. Just now, Mr. Williams. Reach at the point where it's 1 minute to the to 10:30. So what I will do, I must say, first of all, I really enjoy this, and I am very sure that other people enjoyed it. There are other comments that we can respond to right away, and I know we will be back again. There will be other faces as well. We have more people on the lineup, and I'm really hoping that we get these gentlemen back again, right? So I want to say, if you all can share your final sentence or sentences in about 3 minutes each, that will bring us to another 12 minutes, because I will have my final sentence. All of mine just take a minute, right? So about 3 minutes each. And yeah, so then we will come to a close, right? But I really appreciate the viewers, the comments, and the panelists here. I think we were very much on point. I think everyone can appreciate what you all brought to the table tonight. Right? So any one of you could start first.
I will take less than a minute. I
will take it here. I would like to say to the people of Trinidad and Tobago, fight for your free choice. Fight for your free choice. I would like to say to the parents of Trinidad and Tobago, do not let no government use policy to take away your parental right to be a great parent. I would say to the people, the working force of Trinidad and Tobago, do not stoop, do not walk away, do not lie down, do not have what you need to support your family trample on. stand up as a country together for the rights. Because I will say this in closing, right? Education is important, but segregated education will be the demise of this great nation. We in Trinidad and Tobago have 2 to 3 days of opportunity to protest, to flood the Red House, around the Red House, in a democratic and respectful way, right? And the government of Trinidad and Tobago is planning to break the SOE. They are planning to break the SOE because they do not and will not get the 3/5 majority. And under the Constitution, if they break the SOE, they can reclaim a new 90 days, right? Within that time, Trinidad and Tobago, my citizens, all of you, great people, you have 2 to 3 days to protest and keep it going till we shut them down. It is up to you, the people, because the call will be made, but it is up to you to answer the call when it comes.
Well, I would like to close by saying, well, rather than use the word segregated education, I would like to say selective education from the perspective that is only the vaccinated is afforded an education. And I want to close by saying too that evil could only prevail when good men fail to do anything about it, you know. And as a good people, I want to exhort us to prayer because prayer does change things, you know. The God we serve, He's able to deliver us out of this evil that now seems to be very pervasive in the land of Trinidad and Tobago. So each one of us, if we take a little time out and ask God to intervene on our behalf, He certainly will, because God is a God of justice, He's a God of fairness, He's a God that is all embracing, and He doesn't select one group of people over another.
I would say that I
love the unvaccinated.
Oh, sorry.
No, that is okay. That is okay.
So you go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I said He loved the vaccinated as well as the unvaccinated. That's why Christ died for all.
Right, that was the end?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, all I want to say is really, I hope it's one sentence, yes. Because when they came at the adult population, I vex until now. Vex. I ain't like them because of that. And I say them, I mean the authorities, the government. I ain't like them. I ain't like how they following all the dictates of America and all that and want to jab the adults. So I don't like them. But the see when coming to the children, I hate them. As a man of God, you won't like when they see that. But I hate this government for the way they're going about coercing parents to jab the children for what? For a free education, which is the right of every child in Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, gentlemen, and my closing words will be repeating after the first wave movement and the responsible parents group of Trinidad and Tobago. Educate to operate, right? And that educate to operate could mean so many different things. We are not educating the population as to what is really happening. We have the mainstream media feeding us a lot of dishonest information. Then if we are looking at our children being the future leaders, educate them so that they could operate, right? And people who like to say children are the future, the children exist now. So we can't wait till whenever. They exist right now. They are the present. And thanks again to everyone. Good night to all of you. Or one announcement. Look out, searching, type in the Marcia Weeks show and find the page and make sure you follow the page, you like and follow the page. So in that way you would have subscribed to it and you wouldn't miss any of what is happening throughout the entire Caribbean region. That is the page where you see all the activists, all the serious people who making things make sense being interviewed live, and all the demonstrations, everything that is happening, you find it on that page. So I guess my 3 minutes is up. And thanks again to these wonderful gentlemen who were able to be with us tonight. Look forward to tomorrow, live at 8 p.m., same place. And we are expecting to have some other guests. Let's hope we have some of these here with us again, if not tomorrow, sometime soon. So I'm saying again, good night, everyone. Thank you very much for listening, and do enjoy the rest of your night.